Okay, welcome everyone. I am Mayor Hensmore. Today is Monday, May 20th. This is our full council meeting. If you would stand as you're able to help us get started with our pledge of allegiance to our republic. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. President, would you do a roll call, please?
Ms. Brewer.
Here.
Ms. Cheney.
Here.
Mr. Fisher.
Here.
Ms. Crimer. Absent. Ms. Mail.
Here.
Right. For our agenda, we have an additional speaker, Tony Staubach from the Food Waste Division, the coordinator for Hamilton County Environmental Services. We'll be moving him to the top of the agenda of our registered speakers. Also wanted to mention that we have a properties report that will be occurring during the solicitor's time. I don't know that we need to have an adjustment to the agenda for that. It was something that we've been planning on doing for a while, but just not in the agenda for this evening.
Motion to excuse Brittany Kramer. She's out of town.
Very good. Yes.
And I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Is there a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
Motion to accept the agenda as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Mr. Staubach.
Yeah, is there anywhere you want me to
You can have
go?
a seat here if you'd like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't sure if I need to be closer to the mic or anything. So hello, I'm Tony Staubach. I'm the food waste diversion specialist with Hamilton County Resource. We're the solid waste district. We're part of Hamilton County Environmental Services. So thank you for signing on to our 15-year solid waste plan. We really appreciate that. Part of that plan is to reduce the amount of organics going to the landfill. That's why we have the role that I'm in. So my role is specifically with food, although I work very closely with everybody in our office. Food makes up 14% of our solid waste in Hamilton County. It's the most of any particular item that we put in the trash. Most of that is coming from our homes, not from businesses, not from the industrial sector. It's coming from the residential sector. And so I work very closely with the We Thrive team on addressing food access, food apartheid, making sure that food stays out of the landfill by getting to people first. So they worked with Charlotte here to invite me to come out today. I do understand in talking to Shaila, there was some interest at some point about food access and making sure there are appropriate food access points in Gulf Manor. So that's more in the periphery of what I deal with, but I am always happy to help look at and provide some assessments around food access. But specifically what Hamilton County Resource, the solid waste district, can support are efforts that keep food waste out of the landfill. So if that is educating consumers in their homes about best ways to use food, so bringing out a chef to do cooking demos, bringing out educators to teach people about best ways to store, preserve, upcycle, or otherwise use food that they've already purchased, or to make shopping lists, that's something that we can provide. We have funding to make sure that those people are able to come out to the communities, or to make sure that people in the community who provide that education are able to do that through a subsidy. So in South Cumminsville and Cincinnati, there was a woman who approached us and she was like, I know I can get 40 people every month to come to a class. And I'm like, no one can. So sure, let's try. And she did. So great, we love that. So if there's somebody in the community who's really passionate about the subject of like home food access and home food procurement and home food use, I'm happy to work with that person to find a way to subsidize their effort to educate people in the community. On a larger scale, things that you are concerned about as a municipality are diversion rates. We do collect that information from you. We look at that. Food resource recovery is a way to increase your diversion rate. So if there are opportunities to put into place community freezers through a partnership with a nonprofit, those are opportunities to increase your diversion rate for the RRI process, the residential recycling incentive program that we have in place that would increase, hopefully, how much money that we can give you through that particular program. We're working with the Cincinnati Health Department on a project right now where we're putting community freezers in some CRCs as a pilot. The city is kind of fighting with Harvard about the protection, the liability protection provided. Harvard and the folks at the USDA say that municipalities are covered under the Food Donation Improvement Act. The city of Cincinnati would like a nonprofit partner to manage it. We're working through that now. But that's what's happening is the city will own refrigerators that they're leasing to a nonprofit. And then that nonprofit will fill that refrigerator, that freezer rather, with food from the soup and food for the soul and our daily bread. And that food will get directly to the folks at the CRC who need it in a timely manner. And then that will actually count toward their diversion numbers because they'll be able to calculate that food was a resource that was recovered in Cincinnati and distributed to folks in Cincinnati. So anything that keeps food waste out of the landfill is on the table for something we can support. You're probably also familiar with our $15,000 grants that we have on a rolling basis. So that's for anything waste reduction, but specifically for me, I care about the food stuff. So if there is a pantry in town, if there is a food establishment that could be turning food into other products or getting food to people, it needs that $15,000 subsidy. That's a grant that we can look at. Obviously, it's a county grant, so it's not super complicated, but we do have metrics we have to use to measure for success, and certainly we can if they're not fun. But if it's diverting waste, we're always up to the conversation.
Good, thank you, Mr. Staubach. Any questions?
I do have one. Ron Hurt, the administrator. So you mentioned that nonprofits have the ability to use some of these funds to turn them into resources for the community. Could you give us a couple of examples of different types of nonprofits in the other non-city of Cincinnati communities?
Yeah, so for example, Food for the Soul is out in Glendale. They are part of the Episcopal Church. So if you're familiar with the Society of Transfiguration, they're an Episcopal convent. As you can imagine, there are not a lot of Episcopal nuns left. They are sunsetting those efforts and programs, looking for additional opportunities to expand their outreach. And so during the pandemic, there's a woman, Mary Knight, amazing. If you ever get bored, just Google Mary Knight, read about Food for the Soul. They're a fantastic organization. Out of the pandemic, she created a food upcycling effort. So we have supported them through a number of our grants. The other day, we worked with Planning and Development to get her, not just the other day, it was like 2 years of work, to get an ODD grant, a High Department Development grant, to support her and 3 other nonprofits to access refrigerated trucks so that they can do timely rescue and timely distribution of recovered items. Last Mile Food Rescue is not locked to the city of Cincinnati. They are everywhere. We worked with them on IT infrastructure so that they can better rescue food. We worked with them on getting coolers and freezers inside of some of their cars for folks who are rescuing from more challenging locations. We've supported the development of community refrigerators, walk-in freezers in food pantries. We have worked with schools to share tables. We have worked with hundreds of different organizations for small $300 purchases for things like Pam Stoll at the community church out of Miami Township or Whitewater Township needed a trailer of some kind. So we talked to her and she really needed a wagon, like a red radio flyer wagon, so that she could take the uneaten food scraps from events over to a farmer to feed pigs. And I was like, well, that's $160 well spent, because that keeps a good amount of waste out of the landfill. So we're very open to being creative. I mean, the sky's really the limit. As long as it's keeping waste out of the landfill and repurposing that surplus wholesome food so that it can go to people or animals first, that's our priority. Then we look at other management tactics like composting or anaerobic digestion. We do have 2 ADs that are coming online in Hamilton County. That's not anything that's going to happen tomorrow, but we're working on it. We are also doing our study right now to site some Class 2 composting facilities. So we received a USDA grant for $500,000. We're sending back out to 3 different communities to prop up community scale composting sites in Miami Township, Lincoln Heights, and then in partnership with Claremont Adams Solid Waste District in Milford. So technically Milford is in part of our district and part not. So this land kind of bridges both. So they'll be accepting food scraps through local haulers like Queen City Common and Compost Now. vegetative only, but scaling up into that 500 square foot classification. So we are finishing a study now on what capacities we need and what we can create. So we'll also be looking at subsidizing those programs in the next couple of years to create more accomplishment opportunities.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. Starbuck? Thank you for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Well, anything you need, we're here to support you. And that goes for the people from the community too. If there's an organization you work with, just reach out to Hamilton County Environmental Services, Hamilton County Resource, and we're happy to partner with you to keep waste out of the landfill.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Our next registered speaker is Ms. April Norman concerning parking issues on Ardmore Avenue.
Good evening, good evening.
Evening.
Norman. You all know who I am. It was real brief. There was an Ultra Fiber workman parked on Ardmore starting April the 11th. And I know because my birthday's April the 9th. And it did not move for an entire week. And we actually asked someone, because we didn't know who it belonged to. So me and my neighbor, Stacy, asked the gentleman that lives in the building, did he know who the van belonged to? And he was very curt, flippant. It's mine. I'm going to move it when I feel like moving it. So the next day I called, on the 18th, April 18th, I called, and the police did come out. I believe they marked the tire because it looked like it had been marked, but nothing happened. So like 3 days later, I actually spoke with Mr. Boggs and I asked, what was his plan with this truck? And he explained that an officer told him that there was no issue with parking the vehicle there. It just couldn't sit. He just had to move it like up and down the street, which that's not true. So immediately I called, I sent the email at that time, and I emailed everyone and said that he was misinformed. I attached the ordinances, 351.12, no commercial vehicles parked in residential streets. But then it's still sat. The truck still sat. So I think subsequently the police has actually went out there 4 times. He's parking it now on the drive. I filed a complaint about the landlord because he said that he could not park in the back. There's another tenant in that building that blocks the driveway that prevents the other tenants from using the parking in the back, which I don't know why one tenant has control over everyone else in the building. I do believe the landlord did show up and talk because I think I saw him. And so now there's space. But my question is, how long is the process to get this taken care of? Because he just started parking it in the driveway May 15th, so it's been like 30 days plus.
Right. Yeah.
And I think every officer came out, approached it like it was a new call, which, that just starts the process all over again. They act as if they had no prior knowledge of what had happened before. So it just continued and continued. So what's the protocol? What's the process? Because I was under the impression by the 3rd time, like he should have woke up that morning and it was gone.
Right.
So.
Thank you very much, Ms. Norman. I would defer to our Chief of Police, Chief Campbell. Can you speak to the question of the protocol for dealing with situations like that?
Well, with parking complaints, it's typically handled by the officer that receives that call. So as far as follow-ups, if somebody else was called for a different time, they probably would treat it as a new call just because of the nature of the issue. You can look in the our records management system and see if if there's information conveyed that we've called several times. The officers can look that up and kind of get a track of where it is. I think something you said was accurate, that there may have been confusion about commercial vehicles parked on the roadways. The ordinance doesn't prohibit them completely, and I think we should look at this ordinance because there's a lot of people with take-home vehicles. But the ordinance, I think when it was written where vehicles couldn't be parked in residential areas for purpose of advertising a business or a company. So
I don't think
say,
it's reads like, it doesn't read like that. It's very
Well,
short and it's
yeah, it is.
not
It is.
complicated and it's to the
but,
point.
my opinion of this ordinance, because we don't wanna punish somebody, who has, a vehicle related to their work. If the
Well, I don't
company
wanna
says
live
they
on a
don't wanna-
street that's cluttered with business vehicles. You go through Hyde Park, I wouldn't see it. I wouldn't see it in Hyde Park. I don't see it in Amberley Village, which is right next door, or even Pleasant Ridge for that matter. It's a like Alta Fiber is a big business. It's a Fortune 500 company. They have lots. I don't care, what his agreement is with his company, but a company vehicle should be on a company lot. Now, it's parked on a street, suppose someone breaks into it. I guess he hasn't taken into account that he's
Yeah.
probably responsible for that. But his convenience should not affect the aesthetics of the community. So no, and I would vote against changing the ordinance. There can be no exceptions. He parks it in the driveway, which is not a problem now. It just should not be on the street. It's unsightly. It's like leaving your trash cans out all day
Yeah.
for several days.
No, I agree with that, but there's a lot of varieties of these types of vehicles. So, I think it's worth looking at.
Yeah.
So we can clarify it.
I agree. I'm
Um,
sorry that it took so long to get this specific instance resolved. Please feel free to reach out to me with that, because a lot of times just talking to folks in the administration, we can figure out what's going on if there was a miscommunication or a misunderstanding about what the ordinance says. I really appreciate you coming forward.
So what is the
to do
protocol? So is it a citation, a warning, a citation and then towing, or what? And you said record keeping, but there is no record keeping if each officer has an ad hoc policy of whether or not they're gonna keep track. I
Whereas
mean, I-
officers, when they respond to calls, they enter it into the record management system. So that record is recorded. Now, if I'm dispatcher and officers dispatch for a parking complaint, typically, unless there's prior knowledge that it's an ongoing issue, and a lot of times the caller will say, hey, this is an ongoing issue, I've called before, that makes the officers aware. If they're just dispatched for a parking complaint, the officers just respond and deal with it, with what they see.
do you not look at the addresses, period? I mean, I did say that this is an ongoing, this is an ongoing
Yeah, that's
issue.
also the email.
But
that's
it
all.
shouldn't be, like, there should be a record, a log. Someone calls in and they're calling a complaint, that should just be an automatic log. And then when the call is called again, it should pop up, I think we're in AI, so I know people aren't writing this stuff down, aren't you? Isn't there like some artificial intelligence that can do that?
Well, we've been working on that. Prior meetings, we've worked on upgrading our record management system. We're in the process of doing it right now. So, but still, it's the call presented to the officer. They should look at what's going on, and take the next step. We try to be progressive with it. Early on, we'll, if it's a parking complaint, we don't want to show up and tick and tow right off the bat. We'll try to make contact with the owner. We'll try to make sure that they're clear on the ordinance, and follow up appropriately down the road.
So how many days? So it's like 3 or 4, it's kind of hard. Okay, that's cool. Nice.
I'm glad that the specific situation was resolved. Again, I'm sorry that it took so long for it to
Well, it
to
sounds
get
like
resolved.
it's
And-
always gonna take a long
and-
time because there's no process.
Right, well, I have my eye on it. It does
That's not
sound like that there is a record that's kept. And in terms of a protocol for everyone being aware that it's a repeated incident, we'll look into figuring out how that can be made more user-friendly, right? And we have been, to the chief's point, we have been looking at, because other records issues have come up like this that are just an IT issue. And so we have been looking at upgrading the system with regard to that, and I can certainly keep you updated on how that process is going.
I appreciate it.
Again, thank you for your service to the community coming
Thank you.
forward like that.
Ms. Moore, quick question. Do you mind sharing the ordinance that you cited?
It is 351.12.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next registered speaker that I have is Katie LaFollette. Support for council members and administration meeting preparedness and accountability.
Thank you. Good evening. So I believe last month's meeting, Ms. Brewer mentioned that it would be good to have administration and also council provide their reports ahead of time prior to the meetings. And I just wanted to convey my support of that. Because providing information ahead of time helps people like me who are attending the meetings, so I know what we're going to talk about in detail, instead of just relying on my own ears when I'm sitting in the room listening, so I can kind of follow along. But it might help everyone else as well. So, if I was on council, I would look at the reports to understand what questions I need to ask, what I should be following up on, how I can better prepare for the meetings. I know these meetings have recently been rather lengthy, some of them going on over 3 hours or so. So I think it also may help these sessions be more productive, so that we're all on the same page ahead of time, that we can get more out of this time, get more decisions, and discuss more important topics to the village. And then also, I think that this practice would help us drive accountability, both from an administration standpoint and also council. And accountability is actually called out in the mission statement of the Village of Gulf Manor on our website. So we would be upholding that part of our mission as well. So I think that just having the reports in hand ahead of time for the meetings, and I do appreciate that would take, that would change some of the process that's happening today. But I think as we learn and grow, we can make changes that will help us improve long-term. So thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions from council? Appreciate you bringing your support to council on this issue.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Thank you. And next I have Alan Lafayette. Concerns seen in the past few council meetings.
Yes. I have been blessed to have so many strong women shape me into the man I am today. Women who are not afraid to be heard and don't let anyone get in the way of their goals. This is why it's so disappointing to see the women on this council and in this community be consistently disrespected and belittled, specifically by the men sitting at the head of this table. As men, we're born with a privilege that allows us many opportunities. We consistently get higher pay, better treatment, and more leeway than our female counterparts. But our humanity demands that we use this privilege to dismantle the very systems that created it and stop filling what should be shared spaces with our bodies, voices, and ideas. Dignity and respect commands us to lift people up as equals. Now, women on this council do not need our help to be seen and heard, but we can facilitate their platform by listening when they are speaking and fully understanding what they are trying to say. Heard and understood does not mean anything without action to change the behavior. Just like an apology is nothing but empty words without an effort to do better. I consistently see the men in this room talk over and dismiss the women on this council. This is misogyny. I know that's a scary word, but hearing it might prompt you to do better. We can all do better. When a council member asks for documents they need to do their job, give it to them, timely. When they're speaking, listen. Don't interrupt to rephrase their question or put words in their mouth. For example, at the last council meeting, both Ms. Kramer and Ms. Brewer were interrupted and spoken for by Mr. Densmore, Mr. Hurth, and Mr. Butler. This interaction starts around 42 minutes in the recording if you'd like to go back to reference. There are many more examples of this, and I would be more than happy to kind of comb through and bring that to your attention as well. And finally, don't ignore their formal complaints. There needs to be procedures in place to investigate the mayor. Saying that it costs too much to conduct a proper investigation not only dismisses Ms. Hamilton Brewer's experience, but does the whole of this community a disservice. And as of this morning, the misinformation about the former Recreation Commission was still on the mayor's website. This was brought to your attention in March. You apologized for it at the time, but did not take the information down or any responsibility for your words. I know that you've heard all this before, but you've seemingly written these women off and ignored their concerns. Perhaps now that a man stands before you and expresses those same concerns, you'll actually listen and do better. This community deserves better.
Thank you for bringing your concerns to the council. I would like to respond to one of the comments that was directed towards me. Does anybody else have any questions, Mr. Patel, or comments? Concerning your statement about that I had not changed the website was changed, and there's a statement on it to why it was changed. And actually, there has been an investigation of that, and what was found was that the original statements were accurate, that in order to make changes to the quorum that's necessary to spend money, there has to be an ordinance that makes that the case. When the money was being spent, there was no change in the quorum. The body itself cannot change its rules. It has to be done by a council ordinance, and there was no such ordinance that changed that. So that's where we stand with that. I did make the apology because in my statements, I initially did not give proper respect to all the volunteers that have given their time to that committee. And I specifically made changes to make sure that all the volunteers know that this had nothing to do with them. It was a failure of leadership.
I must have said that this morning.
And to your statement about the misogyny in the room, I agree. Old habits, this is not an excuse for anyone, but as we know, it's hard to change. It's hard to make changes. And I want those changes to occur. I believe every male in this room wants those changes to occur. And I appreciate your courage coming forward to facilitate that. Thank you. Any other comments? All right. Thank you to the registered speakers. The next item on our agenda is approval of minutes for council meeting on April 15th. Is there a motion to accept the minutes or any changes? That
I have a couple of changes so page 1 of 10, where it says Mr. Butler explained the legislation necessary. It kind of reads unclear. And I actually went back and watched the video because I couldn't remember the details. I think it might be helpful to add, and if it makes it easier for you, I can type up what I thought makes sense. Like there's a distinction between 3 readings for a resolution versus an ordinance.
Correct.
And like whether it requires 3 readings or a 30-day wait period. I think that's just information that might be useful because the next sentence, like he says, like we typically pass this ordinance as an emergency, but then I make a motion to pass it as not an emergency. It just like, to me, doesn't make sense without that additional context. And then as I'm watching the video too, on the very top of page 2 and 10, I think the motion to approve March 18th was actually done by Brittany and then seconded by Sharon. So we might want to update those.
Can you send me those in?
Sure, yeah.
That's easiest is just.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay.
I'm glad you brought that up because I saw the same thing.
Yeah, because it said but and then but not, or so I was like, okay, wait, what's the?
It was passed as a first reading.
Correct, I
My
think that's right,
recollection,
yes.
So that's not an emergency, it's passed as first reading.
Right, okay. So what then to help him?
Yeah.
So an ordinance does require 3 readings if it's not an emergency, but a
Yes.
resolution does not?
Well, getting back to the first question, an
Okay.
ordinance does require 3 readings, if not passed as emergency, with one exception, and that is appropriations.
Okay,
Appropriations under the charter are not subject to referendum, so they only require 1 reading.
okay,
But yes, typically 3 readings unless it's passed as an emergency. On both a resolution and an ordinance, you have to waive the rules
okay.
for, you have to move to read by title only.
Mhm, yeah.
But a resolution very clearly only needs to be read.
Okay. Cool, all right.
Cool.
I'll go back and re-listen to that and type it up and send it to her.
Any other changes needed to the minutes?
Not any changes to the minutes, but we do have in there that we agreed on a motion to have an executive session for the purposes of discussing, what agenda that I'm looking at, a matter with the police department. And I just wanted to point out that we have not done that yet.
I think the end of that meeting, that was abandoned, as I recall, but I don't know what procedure followed that.
Yeah, we decided to not go into executive session that evening. We scheduled that special meeting for a week or so later that we had on May 1st. I know that Chief Campbell wasn't there. I just wanted to know the protocol for, we have this motion, we agreed on it. We weren't able to cover that topic during the special session. What do we need to do from here so that it is not abandoned?
It would need to be rescheduled, I would think. right? Any objection to that? I honestly don't remember what it was about. Other than.
It was gonna be an executive, so we would discuss it here.
Right.
You
What
matter-
Do you still wanna have it?
Meeting was, no, it's.
Okay.
It's not.
Okay.
It's been settled.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we didn't move on without it.
So it was being called by the police department and they rescinded the request. Okay, for clarity. Any other changes? Any other changes to the minutes? All right, is there a motion to pass the minutes as amended?
Motion to adopt the minutes as amended. Second.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Oh,
We good?
yeah, you
Oh.
can.
Do it together.
All in favor?
Aye.
Objection, I'll take that as unanimous. All right, Chief Meter, the Deer Park Silverton Fire District report, please.
Good evening, everyone. Really, there's not a whole lot happening right now, which is a good thing. Overall, our run volume is down 18% over the same time frame as 2023. Can't really put a finger or rhyme or reason as to why. It seems to be that way across some of our neighboring communities as well. So we're happy to have a little bit of downtime. We're focused on some training, some vehicle maintenance, some station maintenance. So even though we're not busy out making runs, we're still busy doing our daily routines. So overall, Gulf Manor is down about 12% from the same time a year ago. So not dramatic, but just a little bit, just to keep you kind of aware. We will be here on the Juneteenth celebration. I'm going to send the duty crew down. We try to get some off-duty people to come in. Even when you pay off-duty people, people like to have their time off. Not like when we used to be volunteer departments, everyone wanted to show up and do fire stuff. So the duty crew will be here. To the request, we don't have a line item where I can spend for the donation. It's not something that we factor into our budget, and I don't have a place that I can pull it out for the ice and the water. So I'm sorry that we won't be able to do that for you, but
I'm trying to get our police on it.
yeah, unfortunately, it was an internal thing for our own department I can do, but
Right.
since we're a contract agency, it gets a little bit hairy with
You
the
can't send like
bookkeeping,
a letter asking for
Yes,
in-kind
yeah,
donations or anything.
yeah.
People like the fire department, you could get whatever you ask for.
Let me see what I can come up with some of my, let me talk to the, couple of people at the station, maybe we can come up with something, so.
We'll get it out, it doesn't hurt to ask.
Yep. I'll
And that was me literally
I'll
asking
ask,
you,
yes.
like, you can say no to both, but you're still welcome to come party with us. Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll be down here, again, we'll probably just park across the street over here, kind of the big trucks, otherwise, if they do have to make runs, they'll make runs, but then they're supposed to, return down here for the rest of the evening, so it's 5 to 9, is that correct?
4 to 9,
4 to 9,
we'll
okay.
start setting up around 3. So you said there will be a truck there?
Yeah,
Can
they'll
people walk around? and
absolutely,
truck-
yeah,
Okay,
so,
cool, yeah.
yeah, so whenever we come to these events, we have to bring the trucks with us, because obviously
Nice.
we
If
might
there's
have
an
to make
emergency.
a run, right?
But
Yes.
but it is touchable for the
Absolutely, yeah,
kids, okay,
so,
cool.
yeah, we encourage residents, your families, especially kids.
Yeah.
Climb aboard, take
Okay, cool.
pictures, open the cabinets, ask questions.
Nice.
The guys and the women up there, they love to show off the
Yeah.
vehicles, so, yeah, so as long as it's here, they'll hang up by the truck, and if they're not mingling with the participants at the park,
Mhm.
they'll have somebody here to get towards the truck, so.
Nice, thank you.
And it should be the Quint and an ambulance, is how
Oh.
we'll do it, provided again,
Yeah.
they're making runs, but they'll come back here in the
Right.
meantime.
Cool, thank you.
In terms of our administrative duties, we have our next board meeting. Our board meeting is going to be June 18th, and that's at Station 89 at 7050 Blue Ash, and those take place at 4:30 in the afternoon. We're going to discuss some topics, changing some of the policies for how we want to start looking at hiring full-time employees. We want to start looking at EMTs and then paying for paramedic school. Not something that's been done before, but we're trying to find ways to make ourselves attractive to people to want to work for us. So much like all your businesses and police department, we're fighting for the same candidates. So it gets tough, so we need to find ways to make ourselves attractive for maybe somebody that wants to get their foot in the door and start a career. So the board will be discussing that. The union and I have come up with some ideas that we think will be agreeable to the administration of the fire board, so we shall see where that goes. Otherwise, there's really been nothing major in Gulf Manor over the past really 2 months. The fire loss is a little bit up. We've had 2 structure fires from earlier in the year. I think we might have had a car fire at some point down here as well. So, but nothing out of the ordinary that's like raising red flags that, hey, we've got a problem here in the community. So,
Was it in a garage? Because it's $87,000.
it was, the one was up in the second floor, and these are cumulative totals for the year.
Okay.
This past month was a $700 one, which I think was.
Yeah, I saw
cabinets.
that.
That was a food on the stove kind of thing,
Yeah.
cabinets. Actually,
Okay.
the stove was destroyed, but not the cabinets.
Okay.
But the bulk of the 87,000 was from the one, I believe was on Mayflower. It was the kitchen fire. And
Okay.
it completely destroyed the kitchen. So, and anymore, you start
I do
looking
know
at,
about
yeah, you
that.
start looking at kitchen appliances and replacing drywall and ceilings and cabinetry, it gets
Mhm.
expensive pretty quick. And these are just the estimates that we provide as a part of our state reporting. Really good information comes from the insurance companies, but we don't always get that information. We just report what we kind of think it's going to be. And the state uses that to kind of help judge, you know, the effects of fire across the state. So it's not an exact science. We're always kind of just guessing, and we tend to guess a little high. But at the end of the day, the insurance companies pay what they're going to pay. They don't rely on our estimates for anything. It's just a report, kind of an old school reporting that the state makes us do.
Kind of nice to know though.
Yeah, it gives you kind of an idea of the events in the community. So, but knock on wood, it's been relatively quiet.
I know.
Hope to keep it that
Right.
way.
We haven't had a fire for a long.
No, and the storms.
Stop it.
Surprisingly, the storms all went a little bit north of us, so none of our jurisdictions had any. We didn't. The last ones that came through the tornadoes, we did not make a single run that involved the weather. A few EMS details for some typical, trouble breathing, people fell, but in terms of storm damage, there were no wires down, no trees down, no homes damaged, so we escaped the bulk of it, which is fine by us.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the fire district?
Do you have smoke detectors or something that you can get them?
Yes, we do. So if we make smoke detectors available to the residents of the communities that we serve, so we keep those on stock at the station. If you would like to stop up and get one, you can. If for some reason it's inconvenient for you to make the trip, we will come down to you and drop them off, help install them if need be. If you have a current smoke detector that's inside of 10 years old, those are still good, we'll provide replacement batteries if your battery goes bad. So we're happy to do that. Just, I will leave, I'll leave a few cards here with our station number. And just call, I'll leave them here on the table so if you want to grab them after the meeting. Feel free to call the station number and whoever's there will help assist. So we can ask you. You're welcome.
Denny, did I hear you correctly? Did you say a 10-year-old
Yeah, so,
smoke detector is still good?
anything
'Cause I
up
was
to 10,
getting ready
anything
to
up to 10
replace
years
mine.
old is good. So if
Up
it's
to
10,
10.
yeah, so if it's
Okay.
9 years old, start thinking about
Okay.
it, replacement. But yeah, anything 10 and older should be replaced.
Okay.
And that's recommendation from the manufacturers.
Right.
And that goes for smoke detectors and CO detectors as well.
Thank you.
I realized, so earlier today I sent out a link to a Google Calendar that community engagement is starting to use for events and things like that, which I will talk later, but I know that you will not be here for that part. Will it be helpful if I also send that to you so you kind of know like the events that we have going on?
Actually, that would be super helpful.
And if
yes.
you can plug and play, great.
Yeah.
If not, that's okay too,
Yeah.
but at least you know.
Yeah, that's actually, yeah, the more information, the better. I usually get pretty good information from administration, from the website, following along with some of the council meeting minutes.
Okay.
I usually have a good idea what's going on, but I know sometimes things slip through and we want to be here whenever we possibly can for community events especially. So,
Awesome. I'll get that over to you.
all right,
Thank you.
very good. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions for Chief Meter? Thank you for your service on the report.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us. And some cards here, and if you need more, email me. Call me up. We're on the website. And actually, if you call the number, the fire station here, or what fire station here, it transfers directly to our phone consultant. So don't hesitate to call. All right. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
I got several items for the mayor's report. First, building access update. As council is aware, we've had complaints about building access issues, residents trying but unable to get into the building during office hours. In our continued investigations, we're able to discover that the keypad on the doorbell hasn't been working. The doorbell itself worked, and if no one answers, it does go to an auto attendant. The issue was that the keyboard, when the auto attendant says, press 1 for the police department, or press 2 for the administration, or whatever the numbers are, when the person would actually press the numbers, it wasn't registering. We have that fixed now, right? And we believe that that combined with us being at full staff, which by the way, welcome to Renee Elliott, which is our new village clerk, financial operations manager. Now being at full staff, we're hoping that that will resolve the access issues that we've been having recently with the building. Brittany, council person Kramer, passed along my apology to the most recent resident we're aware of that encountered this issue. And I've directed the administration to post an explanation of the situation and apology on our website and official Facebook page for the inconvenience it may have caused any of our residents. If anyone has suggestions or comments on how we can improve accessibility to the building, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. The Golf Manor Soapbox Grand Prix was Sunday, May 5th. I was able to attend that and want to give a big thanks to all the drivers and their families, as well as the volunteers that made for a great day in Golf Manor. It was great to see so many kids enjoying the event. I want to recognize the top finishers. In the Super Double Division, we had in third place Brady Newberry, second place Cadence Newberry, first place Mac McNerney. In the Super Single division, in third place we had Cadence Newberry, second place we had Mac McNerney, and in first place we had Bradley Newborn. In the stock double division, in third place, we had Madeline Staggs. Second place, Cash Johnson. In first place, Elazar Isaac. And in the single stock division, in third place, we had Elliot Irwin. Second place, we had Keith Staggs. In first place, we had Newell Densmore. Don't forget to register if you were participating in any of those events. There's another event in Alt Park coming up on June 16th. The registration is going to be closing in a couple weeks, and the link to that is in my mayor's report. I've personally thanked Stan Coco Tejalo for his years of devotion to the sport and for bringing it free of charge to our residents every year. I also want to thank Steve Simile for his years of coordinating with Stan, getting food trucks lined up and the word out to all our residents. Steve has passed the baton on, but he's still here. Not going anywhere. So thank you, Steve, for your years of service coordinating this event with the kids at Golf Manor. First Suburbs Consortium of Southwest Ohio has its membership meeting Wednesday of next week, May 29th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. That's held at the Silverton Town Hall as usual. We're honored to have the Hamilton County Coroner, Dr. Samarco, speak about the profession, the new facilities there, and answer questions about being a coroner in Hamilton County. Great speaker and a lot of insights that can be learned being the county coroner. So everyone, it's an open event. Welcome to anyone if you're interested in attending that. Finley Market. So I have been in contact with Kelly Lanzer at the Finley Market. Many of you are aware that they have a delivery app that's out, and that for SNAP recipients, both the service fees are waived and it's also free delivery for SNAP recipients. There is also, this is new this year, there's $25 in matching funds towards produce. So if you're spending $25 for produce, you can spend $50 for produce because 25 is added in there. So it's a really great program, and they're willing to staff a booth at our Juneteenth event to help get the word out about this. I've talked to Ms. Mail about that, so we're working on getting that set up. The Finley Market shopping app is available on the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. And we have a QR code that we can probably get into a newsletter about to further get the word out about the shopping app and about the $25 matching and the no delivery fees for SNAP recipients. In honor of Earth Day, April 22nd, I started a grant application to extend the Mayor's Tree Program. I'm asking for another $5,000 to continue our work to improve the tree canopy in the village with native canopy trees, free to interested residents and some saved for the village to plant in public spaces. I'll keep you updated on the application process. Wednesday, May 15th was National Peace Officers Memorial Day, and I have a proclamation concerning that. I don't need my glasses for it because the writing is smaller on here. Okay. Actually, I'll read it from this one. To recognize, let's see, so honoring National Peace Officers Memorial Day. Whereas the village of Gulf Manor stands in solidarity with its neighboring communities, mourning the loss of peace officers who made the ultimate sacrifice, having died while protecting others. And whereas more than 20,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have made this sacrifice, 138 just this past year. And whereas the Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost officially inducted 9 peace officers lost in recent years to be honored at the Ohio Peace Officers Memorial Ceremony this month, including Deputy Joshua Hamilton of the People County Sheriff's Office, end of watch, December 18th, 2023. Deputy Marcus L. Ziegler, Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, end of watch, May 26th, 2023. Officer Timothy J. Unwin, Springfield Township Police Department, end of watch, May 24th, 2001. Corporal Matthew D. Mitchell, South Vienna Police Department, end of watch, December 29th, 2021. Officer Anthony E. Cloyd, University of Dayton Department of Public Safety, end of watch, December 9th, 2021. Deputy Billy I. Earring, Franklin County Sheriff's Office, end of watch, October 28th, 2021. Patrolman Mark U. Hine, St. Henry Police Department, end of watch, November 28th, 2020. Deputy Terrence N. Bateman, Franklin County Sheriff's Office, end of watch, January 15th, 2022. Officer Gerald F. Lynch, Mentor Police Department, end of watch, October 3rd, 2021. Before I finish the rest of the proclamation, I wanted to point out that 6 of those 9 officers died of COVID. And that's the delayed date. Oftentimes there'll be delayed dates while these things are being investigated and everything. But wanted to point out that we're still seeing how significant the pandemic was, particularly or in addition to our people in positions of direct service. Whereas President Kennedy and the United States Congress designated that May 15th be Peace Officers Memorial Day, and that the U.S. flag be flown at half-staff on this date each year. Now, therefore, I, Stephen Densmore, Mayor of the Village of Gulf Manor, do hereby publicly recognize and respect the daily toll on families and intimate friends of active duty peace officers, and salute the courage and selfless service of peace officers in their community and in communities across the nation. Is there a vote to affirm? Is there a motion to affirm?
Motion to affirm.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Without objection, I'll take that as unanimous. Thank you.
Could I pick back on your report?
Sure.
Something important. Finley Market.
Yeah.
You have all this information. I think it wasn't Kelly Lanzer that came to CPS's district-wide meeting last month to talk about this, but there's one point that isn't in that information and people really don't know about, and we were really shocked to hear it. If a family needs good food, like produce and all, and they don't have the money for it, if the doctor orders it and writes a note to Finley Market that this family needs it, then Findlay Market will bill their insurance company for it. And that was shocking to us. We didn't know that.
Yeah, I was not aware of that either. That's a really great
Mhm.
service. We'll have to
It's like a prescription
get
written.
more details on that. I'm aware that with some of the changes with World Health recommendations coming out from World Health, recognizing both that social activity is a health need, that there are that you can get services covered for certain social events through public health. As we see with We Thrive, more money coming in to that direction. And I'll look into that component
Yes,
about
Kelly.
giving a
Yeah.
doctor's note for
It'd be nice to put on the website.
That's great information. Yeah, absolutely, thank you. May is National Mental Health Awareness Month, so I have another proclamation concerning that, honoring May as National Mental Health Awareness Month. Whereas mental health is an essential part of overall well-being, impacting individuals, families, and communities across the country. And whereas 1 in 5 American adults experiences a mental health condition each year, and everyone faces challenges in life that can impact their mental health. And whereas despite its prevalence, mental health remains shrouded in stigma, preventing many from seeking help. And whereas early intervention and access to quality care are crucial for managing mental health conditions and improving quality life. Whereas May is recognized nationally as Mental Health Awareness Month, providing an opportunity to raise awareness, combat stigma, and promote mental health resources. Now therefore, I, Stephen Densmore, Mayor of the Village of Gulf Manor, do hereby proclaim May 2024 as Mental Health Awareness Month in Gulf Manor. I encourage all residents of the village to educate themselves and others about mental health conditions, treatment options, and available resources, challenge stigma by speaking respectfully and inclusively about mental health. Seek help if you are struggling with mental health and encourage others to do the same. Support organizations that provide mental health services and advocacy. Create safe and supportive environments for open conversations about mental health. Together we can create a community where everyone feels empowered to prioritize their mental well-being and seek help when needed. So, is there a motion to affirm?
Motion to affirm.
Is there a second?
One second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Without objection, I'll take the action notice. And that's it for the mayor's report. Questions?
I do have a question. So under the building access update, this kind of falls into the same category as Mr. LaFollette's statement earlier. I think having these updates are good for us to address, citizen complaints. I do think that it is a really good idea to, instead of having an immediate knee-jerk reaction to whatever the complaint is or the statements are, whether it is somebody coming and having the courage to speak in front of council and to address this room, having the due respect of taking a moment, processing what is being said, rather than giving an immediate response or reaction or an effort to clear the record or clear someone's name. And then we have a process for then, reflecting on the comments made, researching what that is, and then providing a report to then follow up and close out that issue. I have said this before, I do not feel that it is the proper use of our time to vindicate is the word that I've used before, whatever the actions are or the complaints, that the examples I have are namely against you. That is not a good use of our time. So I would want to make sure that these are being brought to you for moments of reflection, not immediate adjudication. So I would ask that we make good use of our time and making sure that we are providing factual responses that are void of any emotion.
Any other comments? Any other questions? Let's see. Village Administrator report.
Thank you. Our infrastructure update, Hamel Avenue has a completed water main and all properties have been activated. The first course of asphalt has been installed. Saw cutting in the curbs has been completed in both directions. And then curb, driveway, apron, and sidewalk replacement will begin this week. So the equipment's been out there for several days. The weather, I think, has been an issue. Hopefully the weather will stay good and we'll get that project done. Mr. Butler this evening is going to briefly review future actions that are needed to address some of the blighted properties on the Stover Avenue cul-de-sac. That'll be in his report this evening. We've received a funding grant to do Yosemite Avenue. We were approved for our OPWC application. We're receiving a grant along with an interest-free 20-year loan, which is how we have funded most of our larger projects at this point. That project will be slated to do sometime in actually in early 2025. Should be along with the Ridge Acres project, which is being funded by Round 3. So that corridor, Yosemite, Ridge Acres will all get done sometime starting late this year and then through 2025. Other infrastructure on the North Weehee development, you've probably noticed that the demolition is completed. The building materials have been removed. All of the properties have been eradicated at this point. The contractor still has to add topsoil and hydroseed all of the areas, so that will be a green field when it's finished. We're hoping the hydroseed goes in before the rainy season ends, and a complete grading of the properties will make that a nice, pleasant presentation until we have some ideas of how we're going to move forward with development of that area. Completion time right now is to be determined. We're hoping that it's completed certainly by the middle of June. Update on the RFPs. Both RFPs for the magistrate and the solicitor are active and posted. Both are web-based. In my report, which is online, the links to the RFPs are included in that document. If you wish to go take a look at them. The closing date for submissions for both is Friday, May 24th, which is this Friday at 4:30 p.m. They are structured in such a way that if we are not happy with a number of responses that we've seen, we can extend those if we wish to. To make you aware, we did do a legal notice to publish both of those in the Cincinnati Enquirer back on May 9th, as well as they're included in the online job bank for the Cincinnati Bar Association. The link to the Bar Association is also included in that report. One of the requests that the council members had was to have access to various documents. The administration is working with the IT department on creating a share folder, which we will be able to file various pieces of information for council's perusal. In that file, only council members will have access to that, I should say elected officials. So that we should have more information on within the next week or so. In a personnel update, I am thrilled, beyond thrilled. We went 5 months without a clerk. And our clerk doesn't just clerk. Our clerk is the financial operations manager, doing bank reconciliations, helping with accounts payable, accounts receivable, employee benefits, payroll. Mr. Prednoff and I have been taking care of those duties in addition to everything else going on. We were very fortunate to have an applicant who has over 8 years of experience in the municipal realm. So she's familiar with fund accounting and many of the things that we do. Miss Renee Elliott comes to us from the city of Springdale, longtime employee there, and we are just thrilled as can be to have her working with the Village of Gulf Manor. So feel free, she was here a little bit earlier for the financial audit meeting. Feel free to stop in and say hello to her. We welcome her warmly to our staff. I think she's going to be a really good addition for us. And the good thing is she comes back every day. So, In front of each of the council members, you have a designation form. When we have a resignation on council, which we have had one, some of you may have had that individual as one of your designees. This evening, we need you to complete new designation forms and turn those in to Mr. Pridnoff before you leave this evening. So we need to have those on file. Council members are allowed to change their designees at any council meeting. It has to be at a full council meeting. So you're not, when you complete your form this evening, you're not locked into anything. You can change it again at the next council meeting. But just as a precaution, if you had the other council member on as one of your designees, you need to complete that for us. Then finally, we have a project that we'd like you to participate in. We have a photographer that Ms. Brewer helped us source. He's going to be here live and in person on June 17th, prior to the council meeting. We will have a link that you will be able to go to her website to sign up a specific time, but we will be taking headshots of the elected officials and the department heads that evening. So that's Monday, June 17th. It's probably going to start at 2 o'clock and go till 4:30, 5 o'clock, something like that. But I'll have that link out to you as soon as we have that firmed up. And that's my report.
So any questions for Mr. Hurd?
What?
Read it, Liaison. Can you do that?
Oh, yeah, I forgot that. I'm sorry. There was one other thing. I didn't read everything that was on here. So, Ms. Elliott is also our liaison to Rita. To do that, we need to have her appointed as our tax administrator. You may recall years ago when we did our own tax operation, we had a tax commissioner. At this point, that's an administrator level position. By a simple voice vote, I would like council to consider appointing Ms. Elliott our tax administrator. She also would be our alternate with the Rita board.
So you need a motion to that effect. Yeah.
I'll make a motion.
All right, I'll second it.
Any discussion? Any need for clarification? All
She'll
in
have
favor?
the appropriate training and has she done that before? But if not, she'll have the training.
Not right.
Springdale did their own taxes for a period of time, and they had converted to Rita, so she's familiar with Rita,
Okay.
which is very helpful.
Excellent.
All in favor?
Aye.
Without objection, I take it unanimous.
Thank you for catching that.
Yeah.
Fiscal officer report.
So I don't really have a major update since the fiscal report on financial meeting. We did receive all the, I'm just spilling the beans. We received all of the 2023 reimbursement for the EMA ARPA, which is spectacular. But more to come as my understanding is that there will be a discussion of schedule changing so that the upcoming finance meeting, depending on when that is, may have 2 months attached to it or not. But I leave that to you all to discuss. Otherwise, no major updates there, just regular finance. What was that?
We'll leave you in suspense until later.
Sounds good.
Any questions for our fiscal officer?
What was that amount? What was the total amount?
Oh my gosh. Let's see, it was 61, it was 55 and 111. So 61, 55 and 111, what is that? About $224,000, something like that.
Oh, I think about millions.
No.
That was the funding for the land.
That was all the funding for last year. So it's 127, I'm sorry, 127, $227,000 that is all sitting in 5% interest bearing account. So that's pretty sweet.
Going to the stock fund of it.
No, so the start fund is just too complicated to transfer back and forth. This just goes into our fifth third, which is maybe a quarter point lower, but then we have access to it next day. I don't have to go into a Huntington bank and actually do a bank transfer. It's a lot simpler. So we have the majority is in Star, but
Any other questions?
Actually, I'd like to go back to the administrator's report because we did the motion and then we didn't come back to questions. My two follow-up questions are the parks RFP that we had a presentation back in, I believe, February.
I
And we
should
had-
have that done this week.
Okay.
Yeah.
And will that be sent out to council for us to
Sure.
know what was meant? Okay, cool.
It'll be on web-based also.
Okay. And then the CDB, the Community Development Block Grant, was that also submitted?
It was submitted. We haven't heard anything back yet.
Okay. Can you send a copy of that also out to council?
That was by I'll see if I can get a copy of that.
Yeah.
That was done on a utility. I guess I
Okay.
can go in and print that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, just something that we have for review that we can add to our mental Rolodex.
Any other questions for the administration or for the fiscal officer? Chief Campbell.
Yeah, I have a few items. I'll start with the mayor's court report for the month of April. Total to the village was $4,534. Total to the state, $876. $30 went to the county for a total of $5,440. That's the end of the mayor's court report.
I'll make a motion to accept. I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Along with that, I forwarded out the citations report for the month of April. I think you've all seen that. There are 69 citations in that month. The most common were no driver's license, expired plates, and non-compliance, which is suspension or also not having a driver's license. We see that quite frequently. If there's no questions on that, I'll move on to calls for service. Again, the calls for service is broken down into two categories, what the officers initiate and then what they're dispatched to. So the officers initiated 177 calls for service in the month of April. They were dispatched to 213 calls. So the total number of calls they had in April was 390 calls. This is data we get from the comm center. So I think the number is still higher. Officers will do things, they'll deal with citizens in the lobby or out on the street. Sometimes they don't call in, but that's our low estimate. Is there any questions on that?
Any questions for Chief Campbell?
Lastly, I want to recognize our clerk, Denise Van Pelt. She deserves a lot more recognition than she gets for helping us. We had a leads audit occur. We got the report on the 14th of May. I'll pass this up to you. You can share it, but every single category she passed. She had no corrections, no notes. The leads entries, it's very complex. It's very important. And she did a great job. She was worried about it because they haven't done physical audits in person in a few years because of COVID. So this was her first one with us, and she aced it. So just want to recognize her. Great job.
Yes.
And that's all I have.
I don't have the.
We mentioned it briefly, so what's the status on Sundance? So you have it or?
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Sundance was here last week. We're progressing through it. It's very complex on how they do it. They have our data from Prime Star, and they'll start pouring through that, integrating that into the system. All of our users have been created. We're waiting on leads approval because the system interfaces with leads.
That's the same thing related to,
Yeah. So it's progressing along.
Okay.
We expect to have use of it within 60 days.
My next question. Cool, all right.
Thank you. Thanks for asking.
Any other questions for Chief Campbell? So it came to my attention, I got a letter concerning Officer Jamie Reynolds. And typically when I'm getting a letter about a police officer, there's always kind of a tension that I get about, this could potentially be a complaint, could potentially be a serious issue. And I was very pleased that this was a resident speaking very highly of an incident that they had seen occur, where the officer was able to maintain a very calm demeanor, was able to understand why the folks were upset, who were upset, and was able to navigate that situation in a very good way, which resulted in the situation working out without anyone fighting or getting hurt or getting without any problems, right? So I did not bring the letter with me today, which I was just reminded of it. It was at the end of last month when this occurred. And I would like to read some from it. If you have the letter on you and can do so, I'd appreciate that. Otherwise, I can bring it to the next meeting.
I do not. I know one is hanging in the hallway and one is in his jacket.
I spoke to Officer Reynolds directly and thanked him for his service. He had time before coming to Gulf Manor working at the Lindner Center, is that correct? And so he has a background in mental health, which was obviously on display in this particular situation. And I just want to again thank Officer Reynolds publicly for all the good stuff he brings to the village, his experience and his skills. Anything else for Chief Campbell? Okay.
So,
main solicitor's report.
There's several pieces of legislation in front of you, 2 resolutions, 2 ordinances. The first is resolution 2024-4 regarding the purchase of a police vehicle. I believe that's gone through finance, correct? Yes. As it is a resolution, I just need a motion to read, initially a motion to read by title only.
Motion to read resolution 2024-4 by title only.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Objection to is unanimous.
So resolution number 2024-4, a resolution authorizing a lease/purchase of a police department vehicle through U.S. Bank Corp. Government Leasing and Finance, Inc. It is for less than $60,000, so you do not have to put it out for bid. Less than $75,000, I'm sorry.
Is there a motion? Have a discussion if there's a first and a second.
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
The second to discuss it.
Second. Well,
Give it a second.
Yeah, second to pass and then we discuss. All right.
Who was the second? I'm sorry.
Give an overview. I know we've discussed this in the past, but
Chief, do you want to expound on this?
Yeah, we're purchasing it's a new vehicle that's been a demo, so it's never been titled to anybody. It has maybe 3,000 miles on it, but we're getting a significant price break on this vehicle. Can you remind me, it's less than $30,000?
31.5, I believe, is the purchase price of the vehicle, and 17. It was 18.9 or something like that for all the outfit.
Yeah.
So the total price is just over 50, as I recall. Apologize, I don't have that.
It is. It's I think it's a little closer to 60, but it's under 60,000 total.
Okay.
With you said with the upgrades and the.
That could be correct.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
I missed those details, what?
There was the purchase of the vehicle and then the purchase for all of the upgrades that are
So
required.
it's all one purchase. There's
Right.
one document for all of that. The amortization schedule I thought was, whatever, I can double check later. It's fine.
Okay.
It's not.
for those in the audience, upgrades are things like you buy the vehicle, then you need to put the radios and the sirens and all that stuff on it.
True.
How big are the rims on this vehicle?
And are they chrome?
There's a little
You know, the questions for Chief or for council concerning this?
Just want to make sure finance.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Okay, so approved by Finance Committee, vetted and approved by Finance Committee. Are we ready for a roll call? Roll call, please.
Okay, and Ms. Brewer,
Yes.
Ms. Cheney,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Kramer, sorry, that was from earlier, and Ms. Mail.
Yes.
The next is resolution number 2024-7. This is the second stage of legislation necessary to put our levy on the ballot. It's a 7.0 mil renewal property tax levy, which means that, and it's for operating expenses, which means that it is a renewal, therefore there's no change in the actual tax on the real estate. In other words, we use the values of the real estate as they were when this was originally passed, okay? As opposed to a replacement, which takes into account any growth in value of the real estate. So there's no increase in taxes. It's just simply renewal of a levy we already have in place. And again, 7.0 for 5 years.
Is there a motion?
Motion to read resolution 2024-7 by title only.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 2024-7, a resolution providing for the submission to the electorate of a 7.0 mil renewal property tax levy for current operating expenses in the municipality.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Discussion, give an overview of this for everyone.
As I said before, it's a renewal of an existing levy. Usually somebody asks me what a mill is, which I kind of know, but it's, well,
Do
it's
this again.
a mill, 7 mil is 0.007. It's 1/10 of a cent, that's a mill. 1/100th of a dime. On $100,000 of value, it's 0.007 or $700.
You understood?
I understand it. I can do the math, but
There's a fascinating article if you're looking to fall asleep at night that is on the Gulf Manor website that I penned last year around this time on the 2 mil renewal, which I will not go into.
and you still probably don't understand it, but it's a way to put taxes on simplistically put taxes on property in a manner that's not, I mean, if you put 1% on it, it'd be very large. So they came up with this figure, which by the way goes back to probably ancient Rome or something, but they put this figure, a mill, which again is a percentage of either of a penny or a penny.
I would say that probably as election day gets closer and we are going to be expecting residents to vote on this, I will say as community engagement that we are putting on perhaps maybe 2 town halls at least to really break this down so that people can understand what they are voting on. So like the article is a great start, but really, you know, if we are not the experts, then let's get the experts and reach out to contacts to be able to explain it in ways that we're not taking our best guess at it.
Well, I'm not guessing then.
No,
I know exactly how much this is going to. I
Yes.
mean, when I said I don't know what a mill is, I was being somewhat facetious.
Sure, but also I want to make sure that we are instilling confidence in the residents that we know what we are asking for, and that we are then also able to explain it to them too as well, and go from there and answer questions.
And I understand that. The only thing I'll say about that is when we put on a town hall like that, it has to be educational. It cannot be
Persuasive, correct. Yeah, really just like honestly, what are we asking for?
I understand.
And like, and ask your questions and we can, answer them.
Excellent. All right. Any other questions for the solicitor?
This renewal is going to the general fund, correct? Where's the money going to?
It's general.
So that question I can go into in specifics. Again, that really is the meat of the article that I wrote online. Every department that receives any money from the general fund gets a certain percentage that's put in every single financial packet. If you want to know where general fund monies are going, it's all in there, broken down by department, by percentage. Much more detail than that could take half the night, which I can provide if necessary, but I just am, again, look at the finance packet, look at the 2024 appropriations pie chart. That gives you a very clear, detailed explanation of where all the general fund monies go. This is a general fund levy only.
It's designated for operating expenses.
Correct, and those are,
Yeah, okay.
Operating.
and just to, for clarity for people who speak here in the paper, if your house is marketed at $100,000, we pay $97 a year towards this, resolution, towards this millage, that's what comes out in dollars. So whatever your market value is, 100,000 equals $97.
And that's a renewal?
Yes.
Correct. Any other questions for the solicitor? We have a motion and a second on passage. Are we ready for roll call? Roll call, please.
Ms. Brewer?
Yes.
Ms. Cheney?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Mail?
Yes.
The last is ordinance number 2024-2 that you've seen before. It regards the replacement pages for our ordinance book. We cannot do this tonight as an emergency because we don't have enough members. So all we can do is have a second reading. So I do need a motion to read by title only.
Motion to read by title.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Ordinance number 2024-2, an ordinance to approve current replacement pages of the Gulf Manor codified ordinances and declaring just codified ordinances. And again, it's just the second reading.
Is there a motion to pass?
Motion to pass. Second.
Any questions? Let me get a.
Well, we have a rather large book right over there, green book, 6 inches wide, contains all the ordinances that the council has passed, as well as certain state ordinances that we have to adopt. Once a year, it's submitted to our publisher. We submit the ordinances that have been passed during the year that we've passed. Those are consolidated into that ordinance book. Any changes in state law is also updated for us. We also we are required to keep a copy of the ordinances at Cincinnati Public Law Library downtown. I've already taken the pages down there, and then I have a copy at my office. But basically, we're just updating everything we've done since it was last published.
Any questions for the solicitor?
Sorry, who was the second on that?
Okay.
Okay.
Are we ready for a roll call?
Ms. Brewer?
Yes.
Ms. Cheney?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Mail?
Yes.
The last is ordinance number 2024-3, which is amending the appropriations. Oh, sorry. Can't give that to you.
Maybe you passed it earlier.
I think that might, is that it?
I think so.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mayor, we don't sign this one since it's only the second, right? Okay. The last is ordinance 2024-3, which amends the appropriations for current expenses for the fiscal year December 31st, 2024. As I stated earlier, as this is an appropriations ordinance, it need only be read once. So I need a motion to read by title only.
motion to read by title only.
Second.
All those in favor?
Ordinance number 2024-3, an ordinance to amend appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the Village of Gulf Manor for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2024.
An overview?
I think this is something Eric is probably,
Yeah, so there,
But let's get a motion
Yeah,
first, sorry.
yeah, absolutely.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second
Okay.
it.
So the main thrust of this motion, you will see in your, I believe it was in the department reports and agenda notes. That would be the appropriation. I'm not sure if it was in there. Okay, this was discussed in finance anyway. Essentially, Greater Cincinnati Waterworks wants to make sure that they don't tear up our roads, because just as much as we don't want them to tear up our brand new roads that are paid for by 20-year loans from the state, they don't want to upset our residents either. So the way that they want to, the way that they proceed in general on these kinds of projects, which we're kind of stuck with, is they say, okay, we'll send you the money and you do all the accounting. And so we have a current firm who is doing all of the Hamel Road improvements. And at the same time, they're also replacing the water main. As Mr. Hurth mentioned, the water main has already been replaced. The money has already been sent. 85% of that money has already been sent to us by Greater Cincinnati Waterworks. We just have to pass appropriations in order to be allowed to pay them that money, right? It's not our money, it's their money. Greater Cincinnati Waterworks just wants us to do the accounting, and then we can kind of control the project, and we cut the streets, we replace the water mains, and then we cap them. So that's the purpose of it. My understanding was, Mr. Hurt, there was a separate discussion about some supplemental monies for recreation. Was that something that?
I think in Ms. Burr's report this evening, you were going to discuss funding recreation.
We're gonna discuss it at the community engagement meeting in June. And so
Okay.
we'll have that ready for the June meeting.
Okay, so my understanding at this point is that is not supposed to be in the appropriations for this evening? That meaning there's no change there, or was there discussion of a change there?
There is not a current request for appropriations for recreation for this meeting.
Okay, because the total amount of appropriations for recreation at this point is $2,000 for the year. And my understanding is that there have been two pretty large purchases, one being the
liquor license.
The liquor license, the other being the yoga, that basically took the majority of that money. So I would encourage that discussion to take place, I guess at your next meeting, to ensure that if there is additional monies that are expected to be spent, again, this doesn't fund recreation, this allows recreation to spend that money. If recreation doesn't have authorization to spend more than $2,000, then they cannot spend that money, right? That has to be passed by ordinance. Even if they would go out and raise $10,000, the procedure is they have to have that passed. So just making that very clear.
So the question is will you have any expenses prior to the next council meeting, which is June 17th, that are critical that'll have to be paid for which were not appropriated?
I mean, I just submitted the yoga instructor, which has been approved in the finance meeting.
Correct. So that's $750 plus the liquor license is $500. There's about $750 left until the next meeting. So I just putting it out there that's the
The beer
limitation.
itself will have to be purchased before Juneteenth. But that was, we mathed that out, $250 maybe, you remember what it was?
Yeah.
So it should still be within that $2,000, right?
It's not, when you talk about a meter, right? I don't want to tell you when you're in the red. We want to talk about when we're in the yellow, which is approximately where we are.
what kind of beer for $250?
We'll come back to that in the community engagement. Stay on. I guess, so my response to that is, you had given me that information. The discussion was that we were going to talk about it at the community engagement meeting so that we could then figure out what that dollar amount would be that we needed to ask for appropriations, or I think it mentioned potentially dipping into the reserve fund to kind of forward fund recreation. So I'm working on like budgets to see what our number is for the rest of the year so that we can make one request that will get us through a majority of the remainder of the year. But I do not, it's still in progress, so I don't have those numbers tonight. But I do not want that to affect the items that we already have pending, because I was not aware of the dollar amount for the liquor license. I didn't know about the expense for the, the reimbursement for, what is it, WeThrive. So I guess it's a little.
It's all new, so
caveat
we're trying
there.
to, yeah, no, I mean, that's, since we were talking about appropriations.
Yeah.
I thought it would be appropriate to.
Yeah.
Bring that up.
Yeah. Yeah,
On
very
March.
appropriate.
Appropriate.
I guess my immediate concern, does that jeopardize us being able to pay that invoice for the yoga instructor?
No,
Okay,
definitely not. All it
Okay.
does is if there are further expenses, it delays when the reimbursement can take place.
okay,
I just want to make sure
that
that's
will
out
be
there.
fine, we will,
That's-
yes,
People aren't expecting, I shelled out, $250 for the beer should be fine. If there's $500 more of expenses, that should be fine, but anything past that cannot be paid by recreation, by ordinance until recreation increases, until council increases recreations.
so we can
allocated.
pay, so we will be able to pay for beer and seek reimbursement once we do the appropriations in June.
Okay, for anything above.
Anything above, correct, okay, we're good.
Any other questions concerning the ordinance before you? Ordinance or was it ordinance?
It's an ordinance.
And are we ready for a roll call? Roll call, please.
Ms. Brewer,
Yes.
Ms. Cheney,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Mail.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you.
A couple more items. We did get the liquor license. We actually have a liquor license which goes from the day before Juneteenth into August. So it covered, and just in case you're curious, the type of license that we were requesting, we only allowed one within 30 days. So since both, I know, it makes no sense.
I would listen to have it anytime,
Right,
yeah.
it doesn't make- So you can only get one within 30 days. However, they will allow you to get an unlimited license for 90 days. So that's the liquor license we got, so it straddles both Juneteenth and July 4th.
So it goes 90 days, I thought it was 60.
90.
Okay.
So we have it from June until
I thought it
when?
was June 13th through August
It's all-
13th.
No, it's
Up to 90 days after
Yeah.
May 14th.
Okay, I don't know why I thought
Oh,
August 13th.
okay.
So it's already been approved, or you just requested it?
he's got the
This is
same.
Woo-hoo, all right, yeah.
Alex,
Switch.
Alex is going to give a presentation regarding real estate this evening. As alluded to by Mr. Hirth, council's going to be presented with a hearing, hopefully in July, regarding certain properties that are dilapidated, and I'm working with Jim Putoff to have the properties raised. They're in horrible condition. Under Ohio law, it allows council to tear the properties down. Code is, the ORC is silent on having a hearing. It just provides that we can do it. However, there's case law that provides that we have to give notice and opportunity to be heard, which is basic due process and makes perfectly good sense. So I'm in the process of noticing the owners, and hopefully that hearing will be in front of council in July. Since it is legislative in nature, it does have to come to council. Thank you.
I'll be as brief as possible. So I've been working on researching the properties owned by the village. Currently, there are 32 properties owned by the village. A mixture of traditional parcels, what you would think of as a parcel of land, and sections of streets throughout the village. 28 of those were transferred for $0 to the village. 4 of them over the last couple of years were purchased for $150,000 apiece. Various different types of deeds were used, from general warranty deeds, limited warranty deeds, and quitclaim deeds. All but, and I apologize, there's a typo on page 2, all but 2 properties are fully tax exempt. 2518 Vera and 6512 Weehee are not currently tax exempt. 2518 Vera was transferred on February 25th of 2022. Most basic way to explain it is a year has to pass, a tax year. All property taxes paid before you can apply for tax exemption. For that property, that has come and gone, so we can apply for tax exemption status on that one. The other 6512 Weehee Road was transferred December 15th of 2023. So we will have to wait for the following tax year, all taxes paid in arrears, and then that one can be applied for. I've been working with Patty Hills at the auditor's office. I'm not going to read you the instructions, but at the top of the next page, she's included the instructions for how we go about applying. We can do that anytime. They did inform me that once application is made, it can take anywhere from 6 to 18 months to get the actual tax exemption status. So I would say, the sooner the better. That way we can get that done and, add that to the list of tax exempt properties. One other issue that I wanted to mention, and you'll see when you look at the chart, 32 properties are owned in various different names, or at least that's how they show on the auditor's site. Creates a bit of confusion. I'll tell you, if you go to the auditor's site, you type in Gulf Manor, they're not all going to come up. So I think it may make some sense to get everything titled in one of these names, whichever everyone can agree to. And then apologies, not everyone has a color map. It's harder to see on the non-color map. The last page shows the actual parcels because the portions of the street don't have the numbers. They're not there, but I wanted to let everyone know I'm working on taking all of the parcels, creating a map with everything outlined instead of just pinned. It'll probably come to you in the next few days in sections because properties are sort of spread out that the village owns. And that way you'll be able to see where contiguous properties are, the portions of the street, the sections, everything, and then, everyone will have a clear map of what the village owns.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for putting this together.
Certainly.
Any questions?
And I'll try and get that map ASAP to everyone.
Of these properties, is there additional information on like the size, are we talking like a little corner piece of land that we're talking like a pocket park?
There's only one that's a teeny tiny itty bitty corner.
Okay.
I do have property reports from the auditor site with all the information you're asking for.
Yeah.
I didn't want to kill too many trees, so that would have been called 100 pages, but I can certainly email all the property reports to council.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And then I guess just marking this for a further discussion on perhaps what we can, tentatively do with some of those properties. Like, are we able to sell, like, I know there's a spot on Graceland. Could we put that land for sale and let somebody build a house there?
Gotcha.
That kind of thing. That's ultimately what I'm that was my objective for this type of report. So thank you. This is
My pleasure.
very helpful. Thank you so much.
And definitely come with questions next time or email me questions. I'll put my contact on there.
Perfect.
So.
Any other questions?
The government buildings and parks are on here?
Correct.
They are?
Yep. this building, Chuck Harmon Field and Volunteer Park, Firehouse. They should all be on there.
Any other questions? All right, excellent, thank you. Anything else?
Oh, I have nothing else.
All right, we have nothing. Good. So Ms. Kramer sent in her executive committee report. Is there an interest in my reading that report? I believe that it's, is it published? Do we have that?
It's on
available? Yeah. Anyone interested in my reading that report? It's about 1 page long.
Yeah, it's only a half a page.
Okay. Any objection? Without objection, I apologize, I'm reading it off my phone, but, okay, so, we are in the process of. That's helpful. Yeah, thank you. We're in the process of completing the village administrator's annual review. A survey has been sent to the mayor, executive committee members, department heads, and the fiscal officer to complete, as well as the administrator for self-evaluation. The deadline for responses is 5/21/2024. Afterwards, the review and ratings will be combined and presented back to the administrator for their 2023-2024 review. The mayor will then work with the administrator to set new objectives for the 2024-2025 annual review. We will focus on this in the June committee meeting. The committee also discussed the flag ordinance in the last meeting. No decision was made. We'll pick the discussion back up in the July committee meeting. Committee members Kate LaFollette and Brittany Kramer will begin the process to review the charter and ordinances to flag discrepancies review. Points for discussion. Update about the outstanding RFPs. During the last council meeting, the request that the RFPs be posted by the end of April. No update has been received. I believe that update was in council today. The Parks Master Plan funds have a quickly approaching deadline. With the lack of an RFP being posted, we'll be forced to return the funds or use the sole vendor that was invited to present to executive committee. It's important we are accountable to the village with how we spend our funding. This includes using RFP processes for projects. The executive committee asked that the administration create an RFP process, and that RFP is used for the Parks Master Plan. End of report. Any comments? Any questions?
I know that I'd asked about the Parks Master Plan before the RFP. Did we send it out to anybody else, or was it just the one company that had come earlier? Or the consultant that had come earlier?
We haven't sent it out yet.
Okay. And just remind me, the May 31st deadline, that was to submit who we've selected? Remind me what the deadline is for May 31st.
Eric, what is the deadline on that?
So it's not May 31st. The final, it's July 15th.
Okay,
And it just means that the funds have to be committed by then.
okay,
So meaning we have until July 15th to find a vendor,
okay.
choose them, and then commit those funds to that vendor.
And there was not a May 31st deadline?
It was a touch point, and it was basically updating where we're at with the RFP. Well, at that point, it wasn't an RFP. At that point, the grant was shaped a little bit differently, and they helped me edit it in order for it to be specific to where we're moving now, which is just an RFP and have a firm build as a master plan. Meaning that was a significantly smaller portion of the funds originally granted. There was some ADA compliance original parts to that.
Okay.
That those have been not sidelined, but those have been backseated for now while we build the full plan of the park. Does that make sense?
It is making sense. Yes. I'm just processing it because I thought something different was happening and we didn't really have much communication that the process had changed, right?
Well,
Like was there a subsequent update that the May 31st deadline had changed parameters?
so it wasn't a deadline for May 31st. July 15th is the deadline.
Yes.
It's just touch points. They just
Okay.
want to know where we're holding the process.
Okay.
Any other questions? Concerning the
I can
executive
send you all
report?
those documents.
Great, yeah.
Next executive committee meeting is Monday, June 3rd, 6 p.m. Planning Commission, the next scheduled Planning Commission meeting is to be determined based on any pending business, community engagement.
Okay, so my report was uploaded earlier today. I will hit some of the highlights. I will not go through all of it line by line. The Juneteenth celebration is on track. We have about 3 pages of reports from Mel. We have vendors on site, or vendors lined up. We've got our liquor license now lined up. We believe we have a beer vendor who it's going to be Humble Monk Brewing. So we are finalizing the selections of beer that will be offered. But for anybody in the know, the Humble Monk was a brewery that lost the lease on their current space. And so they are kind of having oh my God, we got to move all this stuff. So through a contact through Ms. Kreimer, we were able to get in touch with their owner, who is a very lovely person and is working with us to obtain some sixtels that we are able to get pretty affordable at an affordable rate. So things are looking really, really good for Juneteenth. We have the entertainment all lined up, provided by the Cincinnati Circus. So a huge kudos to them, and we will be thanking them profusely from now until the event and beyond. Any other highlights I missed? The report's pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, that was from last Thursday, so you can expect something every Thursday. I mean, at least the Community Engagement Committee will, since the event happens, I don't think we have a meeting between now and the event, so I'll make it a point just to email once a week.
Yeah.
So there's been something that happened since Thursday, but it'll just come out next Thursday.
Perfect. Perfect.
Just some confirmation and some communication, boxes checked, I guess, but I'll share all that next Thursday. Nothing super notable at the moment.
Excellent. So with this lovely surprise of having the liquor license for an extended period, we want to figure out ways that community engagement, recreation can utilize this to perhaps raise additional funds. So we are looking at a series of mini events that will take place in the park. The idea that we are currently, that's being floated right now to be further discussed with the full committee next month, will be like a movie in the park night where we can have light concessions and utilize utilize that license.
Pause for 2 seconds. So it says 2 months here. So if I understand correctly, it's 90 days from June 13th?
It's 90 days from May 14th, so it's still
Tracking.
So
Okay.
by June.
Got it.
Right.
So we need to start these many things like now.
Yes,
Okay.
we will add that to the list.
Okay.
All right, moving on to beautification. The neighborhood cleanup day that we talked about in the last meeting is being rescheduled. However, we do have a lot of really great progress made on the community garden. For anybody who is on social media, if you go and follow Big Al the Garden Pal, you will see all of the work that is being done in our community garden. The beds have been weeded. Alan is putting down the cardboard for fertilizer. These are gardening terms. I don't know what they mean. I am not an expert. I will not be attending the community garden because we actually want it to thrive. So I won't be there. But if anybody wants to reach out regarding helping with the community garden, please reach out to myself or to Alan on Instagram or wherever. Or you can also email community@gulfmanorohio.gov. For We Thrive, the neighborhood assessments are underway. We're kind of in that fun period where we have some classes that are turning over. We're finishing the cooking classes and the Matter of Balance workshop. And we are getting ready to start bingo size, which is also offered from the Council on Aging. Those are really beneficial to us because the ones The classes that we do through the Council on Aging are ones where we get paid per completer. So there is that incentive for people to attend most of the classes because it will result in money being given to the village so that we can, keep these things going and provide extra perks to get people to come. So, and we'll get those out on the calendar. I'm expecting the flyers for the bingo size class to be received soon, and we'll get those out on social media on our website so that we can get people filled in those spots. We are starting to get responses for the strategic plan survey. As of when I checked this morning, we had about 5. So I would still encourage people to go onto our website. The link in my report is direct to the strategic plan page, which has all of the background information so you can be brought up to speed and then come from an educated place on being able to complete that survey. And then for the Recreation Commission, we had our first combined meeting in May, and then there's an organizational working session of the commission taking place this Thursday at 6 p.m. here in council chambers. As I mentioned in the last meeting, there's a number of ordinances that are really, really, really out of date. So the commissioners are in a very unique position where they kind of get to write their own job description. Pending approval, it will have to go through ordinance, through council. But it's a kind of a cool thing to really have that hands-on approach to be able to say, here's what I want to have go on in our neighborhood. So not I, but like if I were a commissioner, that they get to do. And some more information will be going out to them, as well as a reminder of that meeting on Thursday. Those are my updates. The points that I do have for discussion, if anybody on council or anybody in this room has recommendations for the July 4th parade grand marshal, please send them my way so that I can include them on the agenda for the community engagement meeting on June 5th. I did talk to a resident who has taken her convertible Barracuda out of the shop or out of the garage and is willing to offer that up for whoever our grand marshal is to be able to ride in. I said if she offered it to council, I would have to fight all of you on. I don't want to do that. So we'll give it to the grand marshal.
She's so proud of that car.
She is so proud and it's so pretty. And then the proposed actions that I have, so we will have the finance committee consider a request, which we will discuss in the community engagement meeting. And then David, I'll get that over to you for having funds appropriated potentially from the reserve to front fund the rec commission. All right, looking ahead, we will be getting the background check policy over to the executive committee for them to finalize, send it back to us on full council so that we can get that passed. We'll be drafting the organizational structure and the bylaws for the rec commission, as I had just mentioned. We still need to be working with the administration on identifying and scheduling the DE&I training for council and the Human Rights Commission as requested by them in our informational meeting a month ago. We'll be also exploring internship opportunities with local colleges and universities, perhaps on community-based projects, but we'll be reaching out over the summer for those. I've got the list of upcoming events on here. I also sent an email out to all of you regarding the Google Calendar that I had mentioned to Chief Meter. This is something that perhaps we can even explore embedding on the community recreation or the community engagement page on our website so that people can see. It'll be a little bit easier to update than the current calendar. In the event that goes down again, we have a backup that is live. And it will have information in the specific events of here's the Facebook link so you can get those updates, or what is this, and it'll have a little description in there as well. So, any questions?
Excellent. Thank you for all your work on it.
Thank you.
Do we have an education report? Or not?
No report.
Okay.
Speaking of, I actually find value, thank you for submitting a report ahead of time, especially, and you might have already. This is the first month we've done that, but I think this is the first time you submitted ahead and Ron. So I actually felt it very useful reading along. So I know there was some resistance before, but consider these like words of encouragement. I liked it. I think you should continue. It didn't cost me much work, but just keep that in mind. I can't, you know how long they are. I don't know.
Yeah, the feedback that I've received from council members is uniformly that's a great idea. The reservations are around the human factor in terms of being able to pull it off and how long we should be trying to actually exercise it and see if we can do it before we, make it law.
We'll find out how helpful it was for Eric too. You can just pin them on the back of the minutes and all that.
See addendum, you'll see it in a minute.
Just so you can
Love it.
just put a link to it. But I mean, I guess I did it too with some of the Juneteenth stuff, so
So I think you were submitting the earliest by the dates on there.
no, it was just for Thursday because that's when we did the, so it was more so for committee, not so much for council, but.
For the education report, Sharon, has there been any communications from the committee on the departure of the superintendent?
No, and what I do know, I would not say in an open meeting.
Want to acknowledge that we had a student that was shot and killed like the day of graduation at like 3 a.m. after graduation from Withrow, right? So certainly our thoughts are with the family and the community that's affected by that. Any other questions? Engagement, Mr. Fisher, finance.
Yeah, finance met, basically everything that we discussed has been discussed already, including the vehicle and the yoga instructor, and everything else was covered with a report, including that we will look into options of how to fund community engagement and how that would look in the report.
Any questions for Mr. Fisher? Let's see, I have under new business municipal building access. Any discussion on that? I don't know if that was a typo or if that was left over from our previous agenda.
That's it.
Yeah, that's left over.
You addressed that in your mayor's report, right?
Right, yeah.
I had submitted those agenda memos. They're online, but I don't see them on the agenda. How are we planning to address those going forward?
I'm sorry, give me more detail.
So I had submitted the agenda memos, which are honestly carryover. Some of them are carryovers from the previous month. They are essentially agenda items. But I know that they're not showing on the agenda now, but they are on the website. How do we want to address those moving forward as topics of discussion?
Sure. Can you give us the topics or somebody read it off the website so we know?
Yeah, so I've got the first one being economic development, the ARPA funds, and then the reports request. The reports request is largely satisfied with all of the updates up until now. But economic development would be a new one, and then ARPA funds is a carryover from last month. So
Want to give an update on ARPA funds? What was the
So-
question that was called for discussion?
Well, in general, these things should go into the agenda.
Right.
Just happens to be that the agenda was put out before all of these
Right.
final
Okay.
copies came in.
Right.
So I think for the future, that's how it should work.
Any objection to that?
No, that's fine. I just
Just
want to make sure
one-
we discuss them.
One point of my discussion that we had regarding the finance meetings and the schedule of the finance meetings are always at the beginning, the first Monday of every month. And that does not give Eric enough time to give a proper report on that month. So we're falling behind. So we did discuss that briefly, that we were gonna have another conversation regarding all the meetings. And we sat down there in Charlotte to go through the calendar. There were two things to discuss. Number one was to move the meetings to the second Mondays, like the old schedule used to be. And second of all, our summer schedule. to put everything on one day instead of having two separate days. That gives people more freedom to be able to travel. So those two things we discussed, and I'd like to propose for the council to vote on tonight, adjustment to the future meetings. Definitely over the next 3 months, we're gonna move everything just to the last Monday, the last meeting. The council meeting, we'll do half an hour executive, half an hour finance, and then we'll do the council meetings. And going forth after that, we'll probably move everything to the second Monday and the fourth Monday instead of the first Monday and the third Monday. So therefore, I put forth a motion to move all the meetings over the next 3 months to the finance, to the full council meetings. The executive and finance and council will be on the same day.
Yeah, so to summarize that with some dates, if you don't mind, I will put it on there. So we are going to move the executive and finance committee meetings that were originally scheduled for June 3rd. Those will be combined with the full council meeting on June 17th.
Is there a second?
Almost. I was just waiting for.
So first, the first meeting would be at what time for executive?
6 o'clock,
And 6:30?
then 6:30, and then 7 o'clock or immediately following finance, whichever is later.
Whichever's later.
Yeah, if finance is a 15-minute meeting, then we shouldn't start council at 6:45. We should be starting it at 7, so that if we're posting a time, residents know to come at 7.
So 7:10.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then for July, the committee meetings held on July 8th will be moved to July 22nd, same time schedule. And then the committee meetings on August 5th will move to August 19th, same time schedule. And then we'll reassess for the fall schedule. We'll get some time together over the summer.
So the community engagement and rec stay in the current week?
Correct. Everything else stays the same, just finance and executive are moving for right now. And we can explore moving the full calendar. If we need to do a complete overhaul of the calendar beginning in September, we have more time to do that.
Has Ms. Kramer been kept in the loop on
Yes.
this? Has she expressed
She is
her
fine.
approval?
So there's one consideration for July. Mr. Pridnock, do we have verification yet when the tax budget is due?
July 15th.
So council will need to pass the 2025 tax budget prior to July 15th, which means that'll have to be, in the current structure, that'll have to be done in June.
Correct.
Or we'll have to call a special meeting specifically just to pass the tax budget before the 15th.
So let's deal with
Just
that when
put-
we get closer. Let's see how it is.
I'm just gonna say, in less than 2 weeks, there will be an addition to my family, which will significantly disrupt my schedule. And if there's any way we can change that meeting to, that July meeting to before the 15th, that would be highly appreciated. Or to do
all
it,
meetings up.
move all the meetings up, that's fine. It could be the day before. So July 15th is a Monday, so it cannot be the day before. It would have to be
What if we move the full council meeting originally on the 22nd up to the 8th?
July 8th.
Yeah.
So for the finance packet, that should be possible to get the June finance packet by that, because it gives me a full week. That should be fine. July 8th. What's July? Just give me, before I say that, July 8th looks like.
So the tax budget is not as critical as the appropriations budget. The tax budget is simply counties telling us how much they're projecting we're getting for the following year, and we're basically saying we're not going to overspend that. So that shouldn't be as difficult to produce in a short turnaround time.
I will add to what you're saying. It is true, it is less critical. However, they have sent out warnings, and I never saw these warnings before this year, that the local government fund, which is largely, I don't want to say defunct, but we don't get nearly as much as we used to. The funding that we get through the local government fund is contingent on our compliance with that tax budget. So we definitely want to make sure that we're getting that passed on the 8th. But not to say any against what you're saying, Ron. I'm just saying like it's definitely a big enough deal that I will make the effort to be there no matter how difficult it is. So I would ask that you do the same to be there that week before.
Keep in mind also that with regard to the tax budget, we have to give notice and have hearings before it's passed. So we're gonna have to take some action at the next meeting to schedule those hearings and get the notice out.
How many hearings? It's 2?
It's 2.
Can the second hearing be right before the meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So we could perhaps
Work
do,
that out for me.
Sorry.
Okay.
We've only done one pretty
We've only done one.
No problem.
Do we have a second to amend the agenda as proposed?
So I changed I put in the dates, July 8 meetings. So it'll be the July 22nd meetings would move to July 8th. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that would be,
All 3.
so July 8 meetings will reflect the same schedule we established by June.
Yeah.
17th.
yes.
I'm sorry,
So-
excuse me.
So June 17th, July 8th, and August 19th will be the 3 dates where we're gonna have executive, finance, and full council.
I apologize. It's at least one hearing. If you only had one hearing historically, you're fine.
Okay, that makes my job a lot easier.
I'm here for
That's
you.
okay, I appreciate it. No problem.
We've normally had it just before we do the vote on the
You could
tax
do
budget.
that, yeah. You could 10 days notice and then you can do it the same day.
Right, and that's not finalized, that's just, again, that's what we're going to submit to the county. So
Correct.
that's to what you were saying, that's not critical, out there, but it
We
just.
still
wanna
have
make
to
sure-
post it and publish it,
We
right?
do that, we do that 10 days ahead
That
of
all
time.
needs to be done, okay, so that's fine.
So we were planning on voting on it on July 8th, just so we're not moving the whole schedule. Can we do that meeting at 5:45, that public hearing?
Sure.
And
That's
then
typically what
the
we
rest
do.
of it goes
Right,
That's perfect.
executive, finance, full
The
council.
question would be, is everybody available to be at that 5:45 meeting?
See, I may or may not be out of town that day. I'll do my best to get back in time. July 8th.
all we need is a quorum for that?
Relying on everybody else to be here then.
COVID rules.
Okay,
I mean, if there's an issue with numbers, you can always schedule a special meeting, which we've done previously.
Okay, once again, I'm gonna put forth the motion to move our meetings to June 17th, July 8th, and August 19th. All 3 meetings on those days. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other questions concerning this proposal? Roll call, please.
so that was a motion by Mr. Fisher. And who was the second?
Me.
A lot of notes. Okay, Ms. Brewer,
Yes.
Ms. Cheney,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Mail.
Yes.
Thank you guys for hashing this out.
Going back to the agenda items, so for the ARPA funds, since there's only 4 of us, consider this my email to everyone that the links that are in this agenda memo are things that I very much want to make sure are on the agenda given appropriate time for discussion in our June meeting. That is an expectation I am setting. And then economic development, really it's something, again, like if we take a look at that, review it, it's more questions than anything else, along with a request for a specific economic development committee to be established. we can decide and discuss on that in June as well.
Very good. Anything else? Any other business? Announcements. So I don't have, all these dates have changed for the next meetings. I will, would you care to repeat those for the record?
Okay, so for June, we have the June 4th, 6 p.m. is the Human Rights Commission. June 4th at 7 p.m., pending any business, is the Planning and Zoning Commission. June 5th, at 6 o'clock is the Community Engagement and Recreation Commission meeting. Monday, June 17th is 6 p.m. is the Executive Committee. 6:30 is the Finance Committee. 7 p.m. or immediately following the Finance Committee meeting, whichever is later, is the full council meeting.
Excellent, thank you. And I'm presuming, can these all be on the, on that shared Google Calendar?
That's what I read them off of.
Okay,
Yep.
excellent. So if anyone needs an update, we've got a great mechanism for that. Thank you. All right, any other business? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for your service.
I want to catch you in, Rob.